Can we improve upon the creative technique deck that I played last week, or are my changes just gonna make it worse? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another legacy video, and Adam has asked me to run back creative technique, and so we're going to do that. I am not going to do a full deck tech today, so here's like the 30-second version. Our goal with this deck is to cascade into or cast creative technique. And ultimately, what's going to happen is we are going to put a ton of hasty power into play. As creative technique is likely to reveal cards like Boarding Party or Maelstrom Wanderer, which will then cascade into more copies of creative technique, allowing us to continue a pseudo loop until we have enough hasty power in play to kill our opponent, or we otherwise hit an Emrakul, the Aeons Torn, to take an extra turn afterwards. Instead of doing a full deck tech today, what I want to focus on is the difference between today's deck and the one that I played last week. They're only going to be like less than 10 cards different, but the ramifications are actually going to be huge. Now, today's video is sponsored by both Moxfield.com and Cool Stuff Inc. Remember, if you need paper magic cards, use promo code ThrabenU at checkout at Cool Stuff Inc. to save 5%. So here is the deck list that we are going to play today, and this exact build top-aided a recent Legacy challenge. And I'm going to show you a tool from my sponsor, Moxfield, real quick. This is Moxfield's Compare tool. So what I've done is I've plugged in today's build, which is the Leyline build, as well as the build that I played for you all last week. And last week's build was playing Gemstone Caverns, and that gave it a way to kind of catch up on the draw. I wasn't overly impressed by that card, as it doesn't necessarily always boost you a turn ahead. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And instead, this build is playing, sorry for the weird wobble back and forth here. This build is playing Sakashima's Protege as another flash cascade spell that can go ahead and start off your combo. And it has changed up which sacrifice lands it is playing. So these two can add some tapped mana of not necessarily primary colors to your mana pool, but you need a few more blue sources in the deck if you are going to add a blue card specifically to the deck list, and this one has also run an Apex Devastator. But the primary changes come to the sideboard, where this deck is opting to play Leyline of the Void, which is a very important card in Legacy sideboards because of how fast decks like Reanimator are. But this is a thing you can cascade into. So if you board Leyline of the Void into your deck, you risk just completely fizzling your combo attempt, which is super scary. This deck also runs an additional copy of Throes of Chaos, which may or may not actually be correct. There's some really complicated math behind that, involving simulations that I'm not going to get into, but that math suggests that an extra copy of Throes of Chaos might not actually be a good thing. I do like Pyrokinesis as a way to clear a bunch of hate bears out of the way, as I was definitely concerned with Thalia and Aethersworn Canonist and such in my previous league. And I don't mind cutting the Colossal Sky Turtles and Meershell Crabs. I boarded in the Meershell Crab a couple of times versus Doomsday, but it did feel a bit awkward to me because in those same matchups, I was wanting to sideboard in Throes of Chaos, and sideboarding in 7 cards at the same time definitely is a thing that I'm concerned with this deck. Let's go ahead and just kind of keep the deck tech tight for today and hop into the league, and let's see if my results are a little better this time. We 3-2'd last time, and we played against a lot of blue-black decks, which is not a place where I want to be. Okay, this opening hand is fine. It attempts to go off on turn 3, which is what I am looking to do, and it is resilient to 1 Thoughtseize effect. I'm not super excited about my mana base situation, in case we are playing against Wasteland. If one of my lands gets wastelanded, I would like it to be Sulfur Vent, I think. This is the one that produces red, but this is the one that can let me attempt multiple times. Maybe I have to keep the one that produces red. I've changed my mind. We are presumably playing against Grixis Delver, and again, I've said that I really don't want to be playing against these blue-black X decks, especially ones that also have Wasteland. Like, counterspells plus discard plus Wasteland is a recipe that I don't want in my kitchen. Okay, cool. Less cool is drawing the Emrakul, but in theory, there's a good chance that we win next turn. But it's definitely not 100%. A Wasteland here is so good. I don't care about a lot of other things, but Wasteland in particular is really rough. Still a 1/1 Dragon Rage Channeler. Okay, do I want to play City of Traders? Probably not. Like, I can play a City of Traders and leave it in play, but then I'm not very good at getting to a second attempt if I have to. I think this is play Boarding Party, so that an X3 is rough. Maybe it is play Creative Technique. It's easier to try again if I hold Creative Technique in hand, and I play around days if I play Creative Technique. Sulfur Vent is a little awkward here. All right. Zach. Let's play around days at least to start off the chain. We will demonstrate. Opponent reveals days, and they get to surveil here. Putting a Dragon Rage Channeler in graveyard. I will pay. There's a Force of Will on one of those. A daze on the second would be pretty brutal. It did not happen. I will Boarding Party and continue this nonsense now. We will demonstrate. When it hits a Brainstorm, which they can cast, we'll Boarding Party and continue this song and dance. I am totally fine with demonstrating here. You may have a Delver. Takashima's protege. Getting another Creative Technique. And we are absolutely just fine to continue this here. When it hits a Delver, there's something that is going to be much better than a Delver. We're now out of Creative Techniques. Maelstrom Wanderer is fantastic. That's really the sort of thing that I want to hit here. I just want extra things that are going to go and be bodies that can attack this turn. Yeah, all right. And my opponent, realizing that they are quite dead, has conceded. Notably, since my Creative Technique gave my opponent a daze, if they had had double counterspells in hand, I would have been in a bad spot. But they didn't. I don't think this is a matchup that's about speed. I think this is a matchup about playing around counterspells, which my deck is already good at doing. About the only thing that I'm thinking about here is Pyrokinesis. But I think I'm not going to board it. I think I'm just comfortable with the deck as is. Like, removing early threats is appealing, but the game's not about removal. It's about just exhausting my opponent's resources. This gets to 4 mana. Has multiple attempts at going off. I throw back 1 Creative Technique. I just kind of assume that I draw extra mana as I'm playing like 42 lands. This is fine, but unexciting, and becomes awkward if my opponent wastelands me, but is very good against like Thoughtseize effects. It is possible my opponent's blue-red, right? I don't think they showed me a black source in game 1. I think they only showed me Volk. If Delver blind flips. Does not. Wasteland is my opponent's like best card for sure, given my exact hand. Second Delver's very scary here. I'll eat a damage. And this is not looking good. If the Delver's blind flip or my opponent brainstorms to flip them. Okay, cool. That's very lucky for me. All right, I eat 2 damage. Crystal Vein is not bad. A huge portion of this game is just like whether or not these Delvers blind flip. Finding Force of Negation. Fetching it away. Wow. I'm a little surprised. My opponent must have some plan over there. Like, I don't understand what the plan is at this exact moment, but they must have something they're very specifically looking for. Like, maybe they're fishing for Wasteland very badly because they already have a counterspell in hand or something. Ah. Plan is try to get me dead immediately. If they have another Bolt, or if Dragon Rage Channeler can grow, they've got it. 7 damage of my 8 life. Alright. So we're going to attempt to win. This is going to be starting with Creative Technique for sure. I just need to demonstrate here. And I'd like to play around days at least to start with. Okay. So I am going to get 1 copy of this, which means if they have a counter spell remaining, they're good. Alright, they have a blue elemental blast. So I am now dead on board. Yep. That'll do. So in that game, a Pyrokinesis would have looked really good. Do I actually want to board that, though? It's a pretty terrible hit off a Creative Technique. And I don't think my opponent's hands are, on average, quite that aggressive. This is fine. I don't love the second Otawara. But this is a hand that can make attempts at comboing off 2 turns in a row, which is exactly the sort of thing that I want. And both of those attempts can be done around days. We're going to be starting on our worst land in case my opponent just fires off a Wasteland out of the gates. We do not. And no turn 1 threat, which is great for me. It's no shuffle. That's a fine draw if Sandstone Needle sticks around. Not guaranteed to. Alright, which one are you going for? That's kind of where I thought you would go. Ponder's fine. Probably suboptimal sequencing. You probably ponder first in case you change your mind about like wanting to hold up a Flusterstorm or something like that. Sulfur Vent. If I want to try to go off next turn, play this one. Then I can do a Dazable Creative Technique. But if my opponent has a second Wasteland, I would like way prefer them to Wasteland Sulfur Vent. Dragon Rage Channeler. And pass the turn. Do I like that? I don't think I like that this turn. I think I plan on truly going for it next turn. Oh wait, shit, I don't have red, do I? I don't have red without Sulfur Vent. Maybe this is Crystal Vein pass, opponent's Ensep, Sakashima. Right now? Maybe right now. Opponent hasn't drawn another card. We attempt Creative Technique. I will demonstrate. Makes us better at beating a single counter spell. That is a Daze. This seems like weird timing to me. I think you want to resolve your Creative Technique first. Maybe my opponent doesn't realize there's a shuffle attached. Oof, hit Force of Will. That's certainly annoying. My opponent wins this fight, but we're setting up for resolving one of these 2 off Sulfur Vents. I can also just hit an untapped red card, and that's fine too. Dragon Rage Channeler has become a 3/3. My opponent has a lot of cards in hand after that attempt. Spiking with the Creative Technique was pretty bad for me. Oh, that's also very bad. Sure. And another creature, also not great for me. I will take some damage. Okay, we've got it next turn. This is presumably flipping, so I'm not going to hold this back to block. I'm going to go ahead and take my damage with it. Alright, my opponent's at 15. Dealt. You brainstormed, right? That was like... I might be misremembering how exactly things worked. I mean, we're here to jam. So let's jam. So we'll cast Creative Technique and demonstrate. Stifle's rough. Like, it's effectively working as a 1-mana counterspell here. That's brutal. Put a card on top, that should be flipping Delver. The same rationale, I will attack again. Again, very unlikely to win from here, because if at any point Delver flips, I'm just dead to it. I'm very dead to that Lightning Bolt. I just don't have outs anymore. They get attack for 6, and then I die, and I can't get to 5 mana to Creative Technique next turn. So I'll scoop it up. I think if my opponent was normal blue-red Delver, I'm fine and I win this, but the fact that they had the Stifles to fight against Creative Technique specifically is brutal here. I think that's a good metagame adaptation if you expect this deck to be popular. Alright, I've kept a hand that's very reasonable against something like Wasteland and very bad against something like Thoughtseize. Again, we don't have to worry about a single counterspell messing us up in this deck. Goblin Welder, so we're probably playing against Painter. So a turn 3 Goldfish seems pretty reasonable. We could get Blood Mooned next turn, like, that's a thing that could happen. Play another Depletion land. Goblin Engineer is a little spooky, but my opponent didn't like have the absolute nuts of an artifact land to just weld something in instantly. Alright, Painter confirmed. Not sure about not attacking there. So I don't have to worry about any soft permission here. So Crystal Vein should be just fine. We will Creative Technique and demonstrate. Lotus Petals, okay. And my opponent does cast it. I've hit another Creative Technique. I am still okay to demonstrate. Things can get a little weird, so I'd prefer not to demonstrate too many times, because like if a Painter gets in play, things start to get a little sweaty. I would also like greatly prefer that my opponent died this turn. Alright, there's a Maelstrom Wanderer. This is now probably going to be enough that my opponent ends up dying. I think I cast this. I don't think I demonstrate this one anymore. I think what I have here is enough, and I don't want to randomly just give my opponent an Ensnaring Bridge or something. Okay, my opponent's done with me. Notably versus Painter combo, I do just have an Emrakul in my deck. I don't really have an out to an Ensnaring Bridge, huh? Ensnaring Bridge happens, it's just there, literally forever. Okay, good to know. Pyrokinesis is a little interesting. Oh wait, no, I have some Bosages and Ottawaras in the lands. Okay. I don't think I'm going to Pyrokinesis since the Painter combo doesn't actually kill my shit. Like, it doesn't literally kill me since I have Emrakul. I will, of course, draw Emrakul now that I've said that, and be sad. This is a turn... Ooh, it's not a turn 3. It's frequently a turn 3. Any tapped land into draw steps makes it a turn 3. Actually, it's any tapped land or Creative Technique makes it a turn 3. Maybe I just look for something that's guaranteed, though. Yes, Dwarven Ruins into Ancient Tomb into one other land is a turn 3. Pitch 1, City of Traders. Mountain, pass. Ruins, pass. We're not so different, you and I. Our lands both tap for red mana. We're brethren. There's a Painter. Everything's blue. Maelstrom Wanderer is a dead draw. That's fine. So the scariest thing here for me is actually just a red Elemental Blast on my Dwarven Ruins, as that takes me off of both of the things that let me attempt to combo off. No attack is weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have to worry about days. So Ottawara seems perfectly fine to play out. Let's get creative. Alright, my opponent Pyroblasts. That's fine. I will copy the spell. This does give my opponent a copy. They reveal a Welder, which is a perfectly reasonable card. I reveal a Spider. I will cast this. We will be demonstrating. And my opponent gives up. GG's. My round 3 hand here is just 2 mana light, so I'm going to go ahead and mulligan that. This one's awkward because this has the appropriate amount of mana, 6, but not the appropriate colors. I think I would rather mulligan than keep this. This gets me to a turn 3. This is fine. I will pitch Otawara and second Otawara, probably. Oh, I'm on the play. I'm going to play Sulfur Vent first. Give my opponent a chance to wasteland that over wastelanding my Hickory Woodlot, which is the one that I do care about. An Urza Saga start is fine. We should handily beat that. Got a Hickory Woodlot this turn, and then next turn I probably Ancient Tomb. I guess it's conceivable that I could Crystal Vein instead to save 2 life. My opponent just fully on Construct Plan. Float, 3 mana, Lotus Petal, Karn. That doesn't matter. Revealing Coding, sure. My opponent's probably dead. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ancient Tomb does seem fine here. 5, 6, Spider, Cascade. Creative Technique, I will be demonstrating. Ooh, my opponent might be playing my Tezzeret build. Apex Devastator. I will no longer, yeah. God, that card is such a good hit. Finishing my thought, I will no longer be demonstrating Creative Technique with 4 Apex Devastator Cascade triggers on the stack. Minor correction, I haven't released my Tezzeret video as of the time of my recording, so my opponent is not playing my list. They are doing their own thing. Do I need to go faster? My opponent's deck probably has counterspells. Not that many of them. They're probably playing chalices and such. I might want to go faster for the game that I am on the draw. So I will probably cut 2 enablers, 1 piece of top end, and then a couple unexciting lands. What color is Tinder Farm? Red, white, single green. Is it the blue one? Because that doesn't allow me, like, it does not produce red mana that allows me to Throes of Chaos quickly. Whereas Sulfur Vent does. This checks out to me. How do I feel about turn 3? Probably good enough to keep this hand. Again, not my ideal turn 2 hand. My opponent has gone to 5. They've presumably found something pretty reasonable to do. So I should play a sacrifice land here, so that if I randomly spike Throes of Chaos, I can cast it next turn, and I can still just play Hickory Woodlot tapped the following turn anyway. Okay, cool. Do this. So what made your hand to keep? Do you just have like a Fluster over there that's going to be real good? A Transmute Artifact. This is going to transmute the Seat. It can't get Ensnaring Bridge. An Aethersworn Canonist. That's pretty good. Okay. This is maybe not a problem. Like, some portion of the time I just combo off through this. I don't have red to play Phoenix. I guess that's what I'm working towards. And just, like, literally kill my opponent with a 5/3 flyer after they think what they have is good enough to beat me. Okay. I have a plan. Like, I just play a 5/3 flyer and then make it even bigger with the Sweet Gum Recluse. Ooh. Slightly annoying. I can also just hardcast a Maelstrom Wanderer. That Spellbomb as follow-up is annoying. Okay, I've got my plan. So my plan is to actually force the Spellbomb. So we just tap these for black, and then play this card. Do not get the option to do the thing. So this enters the battlefield. I put some counters on this. My opponent will Spellbomb this creature. All according to Kaikaku. Take 2 damage, and then we will straight up just kill my opponent with an Aurora Phoenix. Play this land. Actually, is Maelstrom Wanderer better? So Phoenix Deals 0 damage this turn. Maelstrom Wanderer deals 7 damage this turn. Maelstrom Wanderer has me sacrifice 3 of my lands. Maelstrom Wanderer is fine. Just say no to both of these. Nice, we dodged a counter spell. We'll hit my opponent for 7. And see if they can do something cool. Armix. Oh, interesting. I guess in theory it's possible that that kills my stuff. Yeah, this is just a haste creature that rumbles this turn. Yep. Battle. Said no to so many Cascade spells. So one of these has to be blocked. Okay, my opponent has dropped the Canonist, meaning that I can do a combo attempt. I'm not currently prepared to. I am not all that far off from it. Ooh, this is actually going to get interesting. Okay. So how much is this? 7? Sure. So I am going to need a colored dual land. That's not it. My opponent can just do this again next turn, right? Yes, so I should attack here and force the Baleful Strix out of play, so a boarding party can become lethal later. Yeah, this is an awkward situation that I might not make it out of. I think I'm also supposed to play Crystal Vein and just drop City of Traders. That way I work towards having Crystal Vein plus City of Traders as my 4 mana, and then a tapped land gets me to the final things. I'm at 4. I need an untapped red source next turn. And I've got this, otherwise I'm dead. Opal's fine. Take 3, go to 1. And see what my opponent's follow-up is. Archon of Emeria. That's tough to beat. My opponent's random hate bearers are going to be a problem. Yeah, that'll do. I think I'm happy that I have boarded in Go Fast plan, but alternatively, I just like cut this and play 3 copies of Pyrokinesis, and that gets rid of all the various hate bears that my opponent is playing. Like, this allows me to go under my opponent's stuff, which may still be fine. Yeah, so it's like, do I want to go under and just consistently go for the turn 2? I don't think I've seen counterspells from my opponent yet. Doesn't mean they don't have them. Like, if that game is an indication of what it's like to play a hate bear game, I just beat that by casting creatures and ignoring the creative technique portion of my deck a decent portion of the time. I think I am going to try to go under accordingly. So this is a turn 3. I'm fine keeping that. And this can also ambush a hate bear in combat. Okay. My opponent did some very quick mulligans. Alright, just artifact land. This is an ancient tomb. Maybe it's not actually. Yeah, this is a sandstone needle. Okay, no play from my opponent. So I guess show me what you got. Because again, this deck is constructed to beat a single counter spell. Oh, not this though. This doesn't beat a single counter spell. We Tybalt's Trickery, the Throes of Chaos. Yeah, that's the downside of boarding in this sort of stuff. Like, Throes of Chaos is just in my graveyard, so I do just get to try again. Also, I do just have a 3/6 creature in play. That's nothing to sneeze at either. That doesn't do anything against my deck. Yeah, so I will just Throes of Chaos here. And this is sort of an interesting situation. I can actually Throes of Chaos twice. But that doesn't matter because one Tybalt's Trickery is already in graveyard. Okay. I'm going to do this like this. Discard 1 City of Traders to go again. And we'll Tybalt's Trickery. There's boarding party, and we're off to the races. I will Cascade into Creative Technique. Honestly, I'm ahead enough that I don't think I demonstrate. God, that card feels so good. Yeah, GG's. All right, I've kept a hand that can turn 3. I'm going to get a non-essential land out of the way first, so that if my opponent wastelands me, they don't take out my red source, as I don't have redundancy in red mana as of right now. Playing against maybe Delver deck. Delver confirmed. Now the only question is, like, is it Grixis? Delver to graveyard. My opponent will have 3 card types. There's a very good chance Dragon Rage Channeler attacks for 3 as of next turn. Take your card. I'll play Dwarven Ruins. 3 Maelstrom Wanderers in hand with a whole bunch of colorless mana is real awkward. Okay, so that's the guaranteed. I'm eating 3 to the face this turn. We are good against most things that are not Wasteland. Fuck. Oh shit, they hit the wrong land. Hell yeah, that's so exciting for me. Yeah, that's so good. Ancient Tomb pass. Go off next turn. Again, very good against everything that's not Wasteland here. And opponent gets 4 looks at a new Wasteland. Okay, they are Grixis. Again, I don't want to be playing against so many Grixis decks, or so many blue-black decks. Like, the red's whatever. The blue-black core is what's scary here. Don't think I mind Dragon Rage Channeler. The selection's very good for my opponent. But let's fucking go. Boarding Party versus Phoenix is a thing. I think with 3 Maelstrom Wanderers in hand, do the thing that can attack this turn. I don't know, maybe the thing that can block is more important, but this dies to Lightning Bolt. Let's go with the thing that can block. This one also can technically come back later. Although later doesn't matter a lot. Whether or not my opponent's dead this turn is what matters, because I don't get to try again. Or I at least need a respectable board. I want to hit a Murktide Regent. That's not nothing. I don't know how much it matters. Like, what matters is how many counterspells my opponent has in hand. If the answer is 2, I'm dead. So, do I get to continue the game? I do not. Yep, this deck is very good at beating 1 counterspell. 2's rough. I am deterministically dead, I think. Right, block takes 6. My red sources are all ETB tapped. So I think I'm donezo. Yeah, that's fine. We can concede here. I take 9 and then have no outs. I'm still on the fence about Pyrokinesis. I'm not going to play it on the play. I'm just going to try to kill my opponent. This is a turn 3 attempt. It's not great versus Wasteland. I don't know to what extent I am supposed to mulligan hands that, like, just have the ability to go off around days, though. This is one of those times where, like, I really need the reps to see how things are going to look. We're again going to give my opponent the opportunity to wasteland the wrong land and see how that plays out. It's a turn 1 Delver. Maelstrom Wanderer is a bad draw. We are good as long as we dodge Wasteland. Let's see if we do. No Delver flip. That's a Ponder. Oof, my opponent has Wasteland. They have Wastelanded the wrong land, which I find keeps happening in this league, which is, like, very surprising to me. This is fantastic. This means that I can't be Wastelanded off of red permanently. Note that at the time of recording, this deck has only been out on Magic Online for like a week, so it's not surprising that people aren't the best at evaluating what to do against it. If my opponent has Thoughtseize, I think they're supposed to tap their lands the other way. It's possible Bowmasters is the only thing in there. Alright, they had a good think on the Ponder, and it resolved. I gotta stop drawing all these Maelstrom Wanderers. Is this an Ancient Tomb or a City of Traders turn? I think Ancient Tomb. If this turn works, my opponent's dead. If this turn doesn't work, I'm still a few turns out from trying again in all likelihood, and I'm going to play around days. Let us get creative. I will say yes here. Opponent hits Brainstorm. Alright, let's see if my stuff's resolving. My opponent has cast a Flusterstorm. So there's a copy going at the first one, copy going at the first one copy going at the second one. So this is going at the second, the other two are at the first. I will pay for this first one, not pay for the other one. Fluster doesn't quite counter what I've got going on here. They'll need another counter spell beyond that, which unfortunately they do have. So we're going to need some help off the top of the deck here. We're not dead by any means, but a Murktide Regent, for example, could put a pretty hard hurtin' on my life total. We've dodged that. And now I'm just fully in how lucky are we off the top of the library mode. Soul Prevent is fine. I'll play that and pass. May end up in an awkward situation where I have to Otawara a Delver. Lightning Bolt. Definitely scary. I can be dead on this turn if Delver flips and my opponent has another Bolt. Alright. Orcish Bowmasters is a thing that can happen now. I'm at 4. Not technically dead, so I sacrifice this and play City of Traders, I can still be live. Or sorry, if I sacrifice this and play City of Traders, I'm still live. I just bounce a flipped Delver, take 3, and then I have 4 mana available for my turn. Or wait, I'm not on throws for this game, am I? Oh, Revealing Lightning Bolt. Yeah, that's 6 damage no matter what then, and I am dead. GG's. Ugh. Alright, for my final round here, I have kept a hand that can go off on turn 3. It's Misty Rainforest yet again. More Delver? Probably more Delver. This time we have plenty of red lands, so I won't be knocked off of that. Play Dwarven Ruins. There's a Ponder from my opponent. In the short term, a Wasteland is the most annoying thing. Actually, I guess Fetch Thoughtseize is the most annoying thing for me right now. They don't have a follow-up piece of gas. Alright, my opponent drops a threat instead. Cool. So we'll Needle and pass. And next turn I can drop Ancient Tomb to play around Daze and Creative Technique. My opponent does in fact have a Daze, so that's real good that I can do that. I'm at 17. I'm, I guess, scared of more threats, because I have the ability to try multiple times in hand already. And time just becomes the limiting factor. Like another Delver or Dragon Rage Channeler is what's spooky here. But let's go. And I will sack the land here, because I actively know that my opponent has Daze, so we're looking to dodge a secondary counterspell here. I will demonstrate. Opponent hit Dragon Rage Channeler, which is not a problem as long as one of my copies of Creative Technique resolves. My opponent has Force Blue card. Fuck me, I guess. Alright, there's Force Blue card. There's a Daze. I'll pay. This, I think, means that my opponent has a secondary Daze, which is like Force Blue card. That's pretty brutal. My opponent had 3 counterspells in hand there. Delver Blind flips. Take 9, and I have to win on my turn. No shuffle is scary as fuck. So I will... It doesn't matter what land I play. I'm just casting Creative Technique. Well, I mean, I guess Otawara is my untapped land. I guess it does matter. Alright. I am at 4 life. I will demonstrate. I need to get this ball rolling. Opponent reveals a Ponder. They get a few looks at another counterspell. Alright. And we're off. I will Creative Technique. I am dead on board. I probably have to demonstrate again here. Opponent hits another Dragon Rage Channeler. That's totally fine. I will cast this and Cascade. I will hit a Creative Technique. I am going to continue to do this, I think. I don't think I'm dead to anything here. But days will trade with one of these things of my opponent's choice. They're going for the highest up on the stack creative technique, which I cannot pay for. We get a Phoenix and Cascade. Now out of creative techniques, this is going to enter as a copy of Phoenix. The next creative technique hits Apex Devastator, which should be GG. Yeah, there's the haste that I'm going to need. Followed by a boarding party. And my opponent's done with me. Alright, for the game where I'm on the draw, do I want Pyrokinesis now? On the draw, it's probably reasonable. I don't have, like, that many red cards. And the red cards that I have are really good. Like, I mostly like this when I draw a Maelstrom Wanderer that gets stuck in my hand. Maybe I'm not supposed to board them. I will. Boseiju can probably go. Single green doesn't usually matter, and Hickory Woodlot is what gives me double green for the Recluse. And, like, go down a single Otawara, maybe? Just reduce my legendary land count. This does not have enough mana to be functional. This doesn't have red mana. That probably just means that this has to go back. This doesn't have red mana either. But my card count is starting to be low. Like, this is 5 already. Like, I can keep 4 mana Pyrokinesis Boarding Party Creative Technique, and red mana off the top is really good, or maybe resolving Pyrokinesis around like Daze and Spell Pierce and Fluster and stuff to just wipe early threats is fine as well. I'm not excited about this. The Dupe Traders always goes back, and I think I'm going to throw back Crystal Vein. A little bit of a weird hand. Ponder's fine. What would Pyrokinesis have been? Was it just a regular old land? It would have been an Otawara. Okay. Woodlot, pass. There's red mana for my opponent. I just assume this is Volk. Yep. There's a Dragon Rage Channeler. I'm not going to Pyrokinesis that immediately, I don't think. Like, at the very least, I want to untap my lands, but I think I want to give my opponent a chance to play a second creature that I can eat with Pyrokinesis. My opponent gets an extra Surveil for my decision to do so. I think I need to at least untap so that I don't get dazed. It's possible I'm supposed to take 3 points of damage. That's not the land drop that I'm looking for. I think I'm going to take 3 points of damage to see if I can hit a Delver off Pyrokinesis. Might be greedy on my end, as like my opponent gets extra surveils if I let that thing untap. But it's so good if I take a Delver with this. I think given that my situation is a little dodgy, it's worth attempting. Oh man, I thought it was going to be the Delver. I mean, honestly, it still might be. Like, casting a Brainstorm now to set up a Delver is perfectly reasonable. Nope, there's a fetch land to clear. I'm punished by Murktide Regent instead. I am. Murktide Regent is a 6/6. Dragon Rage Channeler is now awkwardly smaller. Force of Negation is a thing if I wait. I guess second Pyrokinesis is also a thing if I wait. Yeah, you can draw that card, that's fine. Sandstone Needle. I will attempt to go off next turn around some number of counterspells. I might just take 1 more damage from Dragon Rage Channeler. Maybe this is just giving them too many looks at Wasteland. But I kind of want to try to trick my opponent into using mana on a Pyrokinesis that doesn't actually matter. Price of Progress. Ooh, buddy. Yes. I go to 11. There's 9 incoming damage. Don't need to divide the damage for any reason. So let's just do this. Phoenix blocks for a turn if things go wrong. Maybe pitching Boarding Party. If my opponent wants to fight over this for some reason. Negative. I go to 5. I can die to another Price of Progress. Fuck, it is the Wasteland. Rough. And I am unfortunately dead to Murktide Regent. I will concede. It's possible I lost that one for not taking out the Dragon Rage Channeler earlier. But I was, what, 1, 2, I was 3 turns again from trying again. Not sure how I feel about Pyrokinesis. I think I'll keep it in. I'm very on the fence about it. This does not have enough functional mana. This has no playable cards. This is fine on 5. I will get rid of a City of Traders. Ancient Tomb feels pretty replaceable. We'll play out some lands and pass. This is a hand that is going to naturally play around Daze, but not necessarily be great against multiple counterspells or Thoughtseize. We'll Needle and pass. Let's see what my opponent can do. They need to present a threat. If they don't present a threat, I might not even go for it this turn. Like, I might just play yet another tapped land. I would give them an extra draw step, an extra turn to set up, but it would make, like, Bell Pierces and Dazes significantly worse. I think I will do that. Brainstorm's fine. This is also just gonna kind of inform my decisions for, like, how many lands do I need to sack. I get worse against Thoughtseize for waiting. Worse against Wasteland for waiting. Yep. Again, I can just keep naturally making land drops. If my opponent is not presenting a threat, I can try to wait them out. And time will tell whether or not this is a good idea. I'd feel more comfortable when I can go off 2 turns in a row. Just guaranteed. I'm just going to pass the turn. I'm actually not that far away from just hardcasting an Apex Devastator. Like, I in theory have 10 mana next turn, but these don't sack for green, so I'd actually like a Hickory Woodlot, oddly enough. Hardcasting Apex Devastator would be a dope way to win. Murktide Regent. Alright, so my opponent has spent some mana and resources producing a threat. Ancient Tomb. 2, 4, 6, 8. Next turn 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next turn 10. Yeah. Can I cast a Creative Technique without sacrificing lands? I can. Let's do that. Wow, Creative Technique is my bait. Understood. Let's do it. I will demonstrate. They randomly hit Force of Will, which is annoying as a single counterspell now. Stops my combo attempt, and they certainly have a single counterspell. There is a Daze. I'm just going to regular pay for that. If you have a second Daze, that's okay. I don't want to sacrifice this land. Because again, this is the bait turn. And Apex Devastator is the thing that is going to be the follow-up. I guess I could die to Price of Progress plus Lightning Bolt. And that would be a little annoying. Ooh, another Murktide Regent. Yeah, that's a scary amount of damage. Alright. Go to 10. Green, green. Red, red. Blue, red. Colorless, colorless. City of Traders. 2. We out there devastating, baby! Cast Creative Technique. I think no Demonstrate. With 3 other Cascades on the stack. Pyrokinesis. Not the sort of hit that I wanted and why I didn't want to sideboard this in. We'll put 4 damage on that Murktide Regent. There's Boarding Party. There's Creative Technique. I might need to copy this. Like, hitting that Pyrokinesis was so bad. I'm going to say no to this one, but if things don't look a little better by the time we get lower on the stack, I might have to. I am dead on board to Murktide Regent. Ooh, there's a Daze. So this is my last... Oh. Okay. So that takes out the Murktide Regent that could block this turn. I think I have to go deeper on this last one. But I can die to some stuff that my opponent can hit. but I just don't have lethal on board, and this is exactly 8 damage. Alright, my opponent hit a Delver, which is a very relevant blocker. I'd like to hit Maelstrom Wanderer off one of these two. Fuck me! So boarding in the Pyrokinesis probably lost me this match. Like, if I hit this Murktide Regent so that I have the possibility of not being dead on board, I then potentially just don't have enough power to punch through this turn. I guess I could have replicated more. Or whatever it's called. Demonstrated more. Yeah, but I'm dead. This can't attack. I'm not representing lethal. I think I'm supposed to hit the Murktide Regent that can block this turn. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. So I don't think this creative technique deck is for me. I will say the upside of this deck is that it is incredibly fast to play, and we may see a lot of this in Legacy Leagues because of this. In the time that I normally record one league, I have recorded 2 leagues with this deck. Like, it is very fast to play, and that's even including me like sitting here humming and hawing about how I want to play. If you get to the point where you actually kind of understand all of your sideboarding and your decision trees, like, this is a deck that can farm leagues very quickly. And kind of my question after that is, like, is its win rate good enough to actually support farming leagues with it? Like, is this actually going to be more consistent than something like, say, a black-red Reanimator build? I'm not sure to what extent Pyrokinesis is a trap. I guess that's one of my big questions after playing this specific league. Like, it's kind of wild that I Apex Devastator cascaded 4 times and then did not win the game from there. Like, maybe I just needed to go harder on the creative technique demonstrates early on so that my opponent's like potential Flusterstorm in hand is forced out earlier while there's still additional Cascade triggers on the stack. But of my 4 Cascades, 2 of them hit Pyrokinesis when there's only 3 copies of that in the deck, so maybe that's not a typical scenario. I could probably sit down and math that out and figure out what was actually correct, but I was dead to Price of Progress, so demonstrating further was just very risky. Yeah, so I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, and remember, if you need any paper cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!